Two hearings, a packed courtroom, but so far no decision on what to do about Arizona's far-reaching immigration bill, SB 1070. The U.S. Justice Department says it's unconstitutional. The governor of Arizona says it's needed to deal with the large number of undocumented immigrants in that state and hopes it will take effect as planned next week. Community organizer Ron Gochez is in our studio in Los Angeles, and American Resistance Radio host Jim Stachowiak joins us from Martinez, Georgia. Hey there, fellas. This is a heated issue. What is the right answer? Mr. Gochez, I'll start with you.
Well, the answer is that we need full legalization for the 12 million undocumented people in this country who are the ones who are the hardworking people who feed this nation. We're the ones that take care of your kids before we take care of our own. We build this country. We clean up this country. I think it's time that President Obama comes through on his promise of immigration reform for not just the Latino community, but all immigrants here in the United States.
Mr. Stachowiak, your opening statement, please.
Well, my opening statement is no one can deny that our country is being invaded by an onslaught of illegal aliens. I find it quite interesting that Mr. Goatcheese and his other, I call Latino racists, don't criticize Mexican immigration policies. Our policies pale in comparison. Mexico shoots its illegals and puts in jail and charges people with felonies, anyone who aids and abets an illegal in their nation. Why has no one criticized Mexico's immigration policies? Why so much on America? Again, what we're trying to do in securing our borders pales in comparison to what Mexico is doing. Why is Mr. Goatcheese not doing this? And we're sick and tired of Mexican cartels being aided by our President of the United States, the Mexican government, operating on our hilltops. And I will say this right now, Mr. Goatcheese, these Mexican cartels, the day or hour is coming, because I openly condoned armed deadly attacks on these outposts on the hilltops of Arizona. There are already Americans preparing to do this. We will do this with or without your...
Mr. Stachowiak, let me interrupt you for a second. I mean, certainly there's no denying that there are some drug cartels out there, but a lot of people that come into this country are certainly coming in here because they're hungry. There's no opportunities for them in Mexico. A lot of them are already here, in fact. So, you know, let me get your take, Mr. Goatcheese, your reaction to what he said about this.
You know, it's remarkable. I agree actually with your guest, because I agree that our country has been overtaken by illegal immigrants and we have to protect our country here. And those immigrants have come from Europe. And it's people like your guest, the Europeans who have invaded our lands here and now call us the illegals, are the same ones that are trying to call us illegals when we're here on our land. This is indigenous people's land, and Mexican, Central American, and South American people are indigenous people to this land. So I agree that we have to protect ourselves. So this is something that, you know, if he's talking about illegals, we have to check the history and check out who are the real illegals, and I think it's people that look more like your guest and not my people.
Mr. Stachowiak, I know that one of the things that you have argued for is armed militias guarding the border. Tell me a little bit about this plan. I know that we're starting to see more of this sort of Minutemen on steroids type groups there.
What you're seeing, there are operations that are already undergoing in the planning stages. The problem is we have Americans that are being attacked. Recently, we had a Border Patrol agent that was violently attacked by a 15-year-old who put 21 stitches in his head, almost took his eye out, and the Border Patrol agent shot him dead. He was extremely criticized by these immigration rights activists, and I'll say the Border Patrol agent did the right thing. If I was there, I would have shot the 15-year-old too. Look, don't bring rocks to a gunfight. Why is La Raza and the immigration right activists stating that they will attack us with pitchforks? Again, they're the ones provoking the American people. We welcome immigrants.
So your method here, Mr. Stachowiak, is just shoot anyone that you see crossing the border?
No. Our direct plan is the people that are firing on American citizens, i.e. the Mexican drug cartels have outposts that are operating on the hilltops of Arizona. This is confirmed in government documents with Homeland Security, but yet our president is ignoring his duties to secure the safety of this nation. Therefore, he's aiding and abetting an invading force. Thereby, President Obama is guilty of treason. And where I don't buy this crap that we are opposed to immigrants. No, we welcome you do it illegally. I mean legally, not illegally. There should be health screenings. We don't want people coming in here with disease. It's interesting to note, too, that in Mexico, that illegals don't get free health care. They don't get food stamps. but they come to America and they get them.
All right,
okay?
Mr. Goatcheese, what do you have to say to all this?
I'm obviously dealing with someone who knows very little about history, very little about politics, and doesn't understand that Mexico's condition today, it is that way because of American foreign policy on our country. And the fact that so many people are poor in our nation is simply because of the economic policies imposed on us by Washington. So when someone simply says, oh, look at the Mexicans, they're corrupt, or look at the Mexican cartels, they don't understand who formed those cartels. They don't understand who formed that poverty. And there is no one on this earth that consumes more drugs than the American public. So if it was not for the Americans who are using these drugs, people wouldn't be producing these drugs. So when you have to point the blame at someone, let's point the blame at the people who are using them, and let's point the blame at the biggest drug dealer there is today in the world, and that's the White House. That's Washington, D.C., and the fact that they sell, produce, and distribute more drugs than anybody on earth. So if you want to point the fingers, let's point the fingers at the real culprits.
Now, I agree with Mr. Goatcheese on the fact that my government is involved in the drug trade, but where I disagree with him is the poverty in Mexico is because the Mexican government is not sharing the wealth with the people. The upper class are the ones that don't pay taxes. It's the lower class. So I disagree. Yes, it's the American government being aided with the Mexican government as well. There's a war brewing in this country. All we ask is do it legally. We're tired of the violence. We don't want what's happening to the towns in Mexico. Just a couple of days ago, 17 people in Mexico were gunned down at a party. We got police departments in my nation that are being outgunned, outmanned because the Mexican cartels taking over counties. More recently, we can reference Pinal County. The cartels are putting death threats, death decrees against sheriffs of my nation.
All right, let me jump in here, guys. Let's get back to the issue at hand really quick here. As we know, this Arizona law in court today being challenged by the U.S. federal government. There was also another challenge to it, the ACLU challenging it, saying, you know, it crossed a lot of lines. And Judge Susan Bolton told the attorney for the ACLU that she might not necessarily block the entire statute, which is what they're asking her to, that she may instead break this law apart and block only a few parts of it. What do you think about this, Mr. Goatcheese, taking just some parts of it and blocking it for now and leaving the rest in place?
There is absolutely nothing about SB 1070 that is something that should be kept as law. What we see today is the Obama administration trying to rescue itself because they feel the pressure of the immigrant rights movement. They're trying to rescue themselves by pretending that they're on our side by placing this lawsuit against the state of Arizona. But we're not going to fall for these tricks. We know that regardless of whether this injunction happens in Arizona or not, we're going to continue to pressure until at a national level, President Obama and the Democratic Party come through on the promises of immigration reform. So although we hope that on the 29th, there will be an injunction that will temporarily pause this. We're waiting for Obama to keep true to his promises so that he can fix this problem, not just in Arizona, but at a national level, because we have almost 12 million people who are living in the shadows, who are terrorized daily, not only by the ICE agents, by sheriffs, by police, and by really, I would say, by terrorists like your guest here, who is advocating openly using armed violence against my community.
Mr. Goatcheese, I mean, one of the things you pointed out is that Obama didn't act, and that's one of the arguments here.
Armed retaliation only against those that have violently attacked Americans. Not the guy out there picking tomatoes, not the guy trimming our bushes or mowing our lawns, but those people that are raping our children, attacking our families. They will be singled out. They will be subject to retaliation because we will target those that have committed violent attacks. Mr. Goatcheese, I want you to answer this. Would you be willing to compromise and say, why don't we, America, adopt Mexicans' immigration policy? I'll tell you what's happening. It's a plan of the New World Order, the North American Union, in 2004, when President Vicente Fox of Mexico and Prime Minister Martin and President Bush signed a plan to harmonize the trade policies, thereby integrating all three nations into a single nation state. That's the ultimate goal of the open border policy, to bring America into a single nation state, which is part of the New World Order's plan to destroy America.
Mr. Sikoryak, you asked him. Why don't you let him answer the question? What is your response to that, Mr. Goatcheese?
Look, my response is this. I think we have something in common, is that we understand that the elites in this country and the elites in the three countries, Mexico and Canada, are the ones who are calling the shots here. They do not have the working class people here in mind. But what I wanted to respond to what was said was that he's saying that he's advocating for armed violence. And what I'm going to tell you is that although we are human rights activists and we believe in nonviolence, we also believe that we're going to defend ourselves and we're going to defend our communities by any way that we can, whether it be through video cameras, whether it be doing interviews like this one. But if you think you're going to come into our communities armed and you're going to kill us and you don't think we're going to defend ourselves, you're crazy. So I'm saying that our country and our continent is going to defend itself.
We will kill anybody who attacks Americans. We won't attack anyone unless they commit a violent attack against us.
All right, fellas, I'm going to have to cut in here. That's going to do it for us today. Community organizer Ron Gochez and Jim Stakowiak, host of American Resistance Radio. Always enlightening.